see what that story tells us. So, let's be honest. The world economy right now is, well, it's a bit of a mess, isn't it? You've got geopolitical tensions, trade is all over the place, and just a general feeling of uncertainty. It really makes you wonder, can any big economy actually boom in an environment like this? Well, here's your answer, 7.4%. Let that sink in for a second. That's the real GDP growth projected for India in fiscal year 2026. In a world where most countries are just trying to keep their heads above water, a number like this isn't just good, it's extraordinary. And it's exactly why we're digging into this today. Okay, so first things first, we need to put that number into context. Why is everyone calling this performance a global bright spot? Think of it like this. The global economy is like a massive storm, and most economies are ships just getting tossed around. But then there's India. It's not just weathering the storm, it's actually picking up speed. The survey says it's set to be the fastest growing major economy for the 4th year in a row. This is about charting a new course, not just hunkering down. So what's the secret sauce here? What's really firing on all cylinders to make this happen? Let's pop the hood on India's economic engine and see what's powering it. The biggest piece of the puzzle, by far, the Indian consumer. People spending money. I mean, private consumption makes up a whopping 61.5% of the entire economy. That's the highest share it's had in over a decade. It's the absolute bedrock of this growth. And you might be wondering, well, why are people spending so much? A huge part of the answer is this number right here. Just 1.7%. That was the average headline inflation. When the cost of things isn't shooting up, you just feel more confident, right? You've got more money in your pocket. And that's what's fueling this boom. And that stability, it runs deep. It goes right to the heart of the economy, the banks. The level of bad loans is at a multi-decade low of just 2.2%. A healthy banking system, it's like the body's circulatory system. It means banks are strong and they're ready to pump credit out to businesses and individuals, keeping everything moving. And look at the incredible reach of that system. Over 550 million new bank accounts have been opened through a huge financial inclusion program. Now, that's not just a statistic. That represents hundreds of millions of people, many in rural areas, getting plugged into the formal economy, many for the very first time. That's a game changer. So the domestic story is rock solid. But what about the outside world? Well, India's got a pretty solid firewall there, too. Service exports at an all-time high. Money being sent home from abroad, #1 in the world. And those massive foreign exchange reserves, that's like a giant rainy day fund to handle any global shocks. It's a story of strength, both inside and out. Okay, numbers are great, but what does all this growth actually look and feel like on the ground? Well, the next part of this story is all about the physical stuff, a massive push to build a modern nation. Just take a look at this. Over 5,300 kilometers of high-speed corridors. Now, to give you some perspective, back in 2014, that number was just 550 kilometers. That's not just an increase, that's a flat-out explosion in the country's connectivity. And it's not just on the ground, they're taking to the skies too. The number of airports has more than doubled since 2014. We're now talking about the world's 3rd largest domestic aviation market. This is about connecting people and goods on a scale that was unimaginable just a decade ago.
Of course, all these new roads and airports need something to move, right? That's where the industrial push comes in. Government incentive schemes have already pulled in over 2 lakh crore rupees in actual investment. That's money that's going directly into boosting manufacturing and, you guessed it, creating jobs.
Now, this next one might sound a little technical, but trust me, this is a huge deal. For the first time ever, the country's power distribution companies have actually turned a profit. For decades, this sector was notorious for losing money. The fact that it's now in the black shows that some really deep, difficult reforms are finally paying off. And you can't have a modern economy without reliable power. So we have a strong economy, we have new infrastructure, we have more power, but what does all of that actually mean for the average person? Well, the whole point of this, according to the survey, is to translate that progress into real improvements in people's lives. And this right here, this chart tells one of the most powerful stories of all. The share of the population living in what's called multidimensional poverty has absolutely plummeted. It's gone from over half the country down to just over 11%. That's not just data on a screen. That is millions and millions of lives transformed. There's also a big focus on bringing more people into the formal system. Over 310 million informal workers are now registered on a national portal, which gives them access to Social Security and a safety net. And what's really amazing is that the data shows more than half of them are women. But of course, you can't just build for today, you have to invest in tomorrow. And that's where this huge expansion in top-tier higher education comes in. More world-class institutions means creating the brain power, the skilled people needed to keep this growth engine running for decades to come. Okay, so that's the story of where we are. But the big question is, where do we go from here? This survey isn't just a report card on the past, it's a very clear roadmap for the future. And it all boils down to this one powerful phrase: discipline Swadeshi for strategic resilience. Now, Swadeshi is an old term for self-reliance, but this is a totally modern take on it. This isn't about closing the doors to the world, not at all. It's about building so much strength at home that you can engage with the world on your own terms. And this strategy breaks down into a really clear three-step plan. First, build up critical capabilities inside the country. Second, use those capabilities to become a world leader in advanced manufacturing. And third, the ultimate goal: move beyond just being self-reliant to becoming so important to the global economy that you are strategically indispensable.